All right, this is the story. This is my story of 109. I was in Madrid, Spain. I had posted my 1090th photo to Instagram. I exited the hotel, I turned the block, and right parked on the street was a car with the license plate 1090. That was a coincidence. I was in Bahrain, a Middle Eastern country, and I walked into my hotel room, and just above the television there was a satellite box set to channel, frequency, whatever, 109. I walked into the Addis Ababa University in Ethiopia, went to the restroom, and just as I'm entering the restroom, there's a door off to the left, and written on the door, there is the number 109 that's been written on the door. The door number is 200 something. It's on the second floor, but someone had written 109 on the door. I was in Medellin, Colombia, and I went to sleep around 9 p.m. and I woke up at exactly 1:09 a.m. and I checked my phone. I was in Peru. I climbed up Machu Picchu, and by the time I reached Machu Picchu, it was by the time I reached the summit of Machu Picchu, I had checked my watch and it was 10:08. So I decided that I would go down the mountain at 10:09 because up until that point I had this tradition of seeing or finding these numbers, encountering these numbers 109. And it didn't matter whether it was 1090 or 1009 or 109, or it even could have been the time 10:09 or 1:09. I was in Havana, Cuba. I was reading about revolutionary Che Guevara's life because you can't miss Che being in Cuba, the country where he and Fidel Castro led the Cuban Revolution. That night, I began reading that book and I read the sentence that informed me that Che was captured and then shot. He was captured on October 8th, 1967, and then he was shot and died on October 9th. Now, if I had learned that Che had died in Los Angeles on October 9th, maybe I would have amused myself by saying, oh, October 9th, that's my birthday. What a neat coincidence. And I would have left it at that. But I had been having this recurring encounter with these numbers, as I mentioned, as I said before. So being physically in Havana, Cuba, and seeing or having this coincidence occur in Havana, Cuba made me say, wow, this is slightly more than a coincidence. I was in Saudi Arabia at the airport, and after grabbing my bags from baggage claim, I went to get a taxi. The taxis were all lined up, and the taxi cab that was next in line to be my taxi had the license plate beginning with the numbers 109. So these encounters with these numbers have been happening, and whenever I encounter these numbers, I simply amuse myself by saying, oh, that's my birthday. That's an allusion to my birthday, October 9th, 109. Okay, so that being the case, um, these instances would happen and they would just pass, and I would, like I said, I'd amuse myself. But what happened in Oman, the country that I was in most recently, a year ago, um, was extremely significant. On the day that Nipsey was murdered, I was in Oman and I received the news through Instagram. I awoke and I went I went to work. I was already basically uh, deeply impacted by this man's murder, even though I had never met him, even though um, you know I only knew him through his interviews and his music, and only because I had learned more about him in recent history. Um, did I grow to have an appreciation for him and basically for his legacy. Well, that morning that I received that news, I left my home en route to work, and I was cut off by a truck. And it was a very short distance from home to school, so um, you know, and I drive that way every day. But for a car to cut me off, it just that was something that had never happened, but it was something that grabbed my attention. So the fact that this truck cut me off, of course, angered me. But I then, in that moment where I was already, my my senses were heightened because Nipsey had been murdered. I was thousands of miles away from Los Angeles. I wanted to be near family, near familiar surroundings, and this car cuts me off on my way to work, and it angers me. But then I looked at the car's license plate and it read 1090. And in that moment, I was having another experience, another encounter with 109. So I thought, these are my numbers. And, you know, these numbers are a sign that I should relax, a sign that the universe, has placed me here in this faraway land, and I'm here for a reason, for a purpose. Well, I continued to go to work, but that encounter with those numbers made resonated with me deeply. Of course, I let it pass, and then I just went to work to teach and carry out my routine. But I was still deeply affected by Nipsey's murder. Well, exactly 7 days thereafter, um, as I was exiting my home again en route to work, I walked outside of my home and I looked up in the sky and I saw basically two chemtrails that intersected, and I immediately thought of a cross. I have I have thought about why I that saw those lines, chemtrails, contrails, whatever you may call them. They were two distinct lines in the sky that I can't explain why I saw them, and I can't explain, and I wonder why did I see them on that particular day, especially when it was 7 days after Nipsey's murder, and especially because for over the 6 months that I had lived there and gone to work diligently every day, I never saw anything like that before or after that particular day. So that is the crux of this story. What was it? Why did I see those lines that day? And what does it mean? And why have these numbers resonated with me so deeply over the last 13 years? Well, the only explanation I was able to come to was, I've been seeing these numbers because they've been preparing me for interpreting events that would eventually occur. So basically, I I can see what Nipsey's passing means in a way that I think I would not have seen or understood it or made sense of it were I in Los Angeles. Because to me, Nipsey wasn't just a gang member who lost his life on the streets of Los Angeles, but I can see how Nipsey was a descendant of an ancient biblical kingdom, Aksum, and how his legacy is one that emblazoned the imaginations and the hearts of Africans all around the world. In a very deep sense, he was the the Black Panther, um, and he was he really has shown us that you know we can be successful. Black excellence is is attainable, and especially in our lifetime. To be 33 and to have already become a millionaire based upon his own means um, is monumental in and of itself. Of course, we can debate or we can discuss his legacy, his gang affiliations, and all of the ills of his life. Um, but we also have to consider his accomplishments in light of those detracting factors. So anyhow, there are far more details about Ethiopia, about Nipsey, about uh, the multitude of encounters with 109 that I have, that I want to convey in my short documentary, which I think is best if conveyed or presented in interview style. All right, so that's it.